It's Friday, which means it's time for some anime! In today's episode of Berserk, Guts the Black Swordsman is confronted and captured by the Holy Iron Chain Knights and their freaky but awesome leader, Farnace. The beautiful blood splatter covers the screen in this week's action-packed episode of Berserk. A significantly better episode than the first episode of the series. Much better pacing, new characters introduced, and lots of cool action. Not to mention lots of flashback sequences, which feature a more traditional animation art style, which frankly, I really wish they would choose a lot more for the rest of the series. The CG animation, if you didn't like it in the first episode, you're not going to like it here. The good news is, this episode still has a lot of style behind it, and if you loved that original episode from Berserk or from the movie series, where Guts went up against 100 soldiers, chances are you're gonna have a few favorite scenes from this episode, as Guts is confronted by the Holy Iron Chain Knights, the Knights of the Holy Sea, led by Farnace and, of course, Azon, this one badass warrior who fended off another 100 soldiers, and the very calm, collected, and cool Serpico. Guts is only at about half of his strength when he's actually fighting against all of the knights in this episode. Despite that, he's still incredibly destructive, utilizing his metal arm to crack the teeth of a couple of these knights in a really cool and stylistic scene. It's not until he's shot in the arm with an arrow that he gets severely pissed off and starts swinging his massive slab of iron, the Dragon Slayer, around, basically just destroying any bodies that get in front of it. It's destructive, it's violent as all hell, and it is metal and awesome. Guts is confronted by this soldier by the name of Azon, who uses this really cool staff weapon, which has these clubbed spikes at the very end of it, and he really does give Guts a tough time. That is until Guts realizes that he has to go after the leader, the head, and that's when he goes after Farnace. The problem is, he's severely injured, a piece of lumber ends up smacking into his leg, and it completely knocks him unconscious, and he is captured by the Holy Iron Chain Knights. And this is when we are treated to a scene which is frankly just as disturbing here as it is in the manga version, where Guts is captured, he's locked up, and he is tortured by Farnace, who takes this cat-o'-nine-tails type whip, which is covered in spikes at the very end of it, and basically we learn here that they've been hunting the Band of the Hawk. They've been trying to figure out why they disappeared, why their infamy still continues to live on through this black swordsman, and now that they finally captured him, they want some damn answers, and the only way that they're gonna do that is that they're gonna get medieval on Guts' ass. She tries to preach the good word, but of course Guts is not hearing any of this. He's been completely disillusioned to the concept of a god, but he certainly knows about the devil, and he takes a lot of Farnace's punishment in this episode in a big sweeping scene where she just constantly whips him with blood flying all over the place. It's pretty freaking disturbing, to say the least. However, Guts is not one to simply just be captured by some random humans, especially considering that if he's going to be locked up and not able to use any of his weapons, he's going to be easy prey for all of the demons who want to devour his soul. Luckily, Guts has a brand new plucky sidekick who goes by the name of Puck, who is definitely a necessary character for this series, more so now that I see it in the anime version, because this show can go into some extreme dark territory, but the minute Puck shows up, you just get a big smile on your face. Puck is able to steal some of the keys, him and Guts make a quick escape, where they find Farnace, who is torturing herself, by the way. It's pretty freaking strange, actually taking this whip and constantly smacking herself in the back, looking for forgiveness from her god. That's when Guts comes in, smacks her in the back of the head, and makes a quick escape with her in his arms. The Holy Iron Chain Knights have no choice but to allow Guts to leave with Farnace. That is until Serpico decides that he's going to give chase with his crossbow, when suddenly he is ambushed by hundreds of demons, ending this week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Berserk? This one was pretty freaking awesome. I loved this one. There were a lot of really great moments, especially in the action department. I loved the scene at the beginning where Guts was confronted by all of those soldiers. Immediately when I saw the scene, even when I was reading it in the manga, I was reminded of the scene where Guts fought against 100 soldiers with Casca, and they actually go back and show some of these flashbacks, which have been newly animated. They could have just reused some shots from the movie, but it would have been a little jarring when you compare it to the animation style that we have in this series, so I can understand why they went back and they decided to animate this. Not only that, but throughout the course of the episode, you're going to see a lot more flashbacks than you saw in the first episode. There's a key scene with Guts and Griffith standing atop a pile of bodies, which again is just demonstrating their friendship and their teamwork, yet it all just eventually crumbles at some point in the past. And I'm guessing that as the series is going on, they're going to sort of sprinkle in these flashbacks for people who never had an opportunity to either read the manga, watch the original anime version, or see the movie trilogy. And honestly, I can appreciate that. The best thing about this episode, though, again, is the frickin' action. I love watching Guts fight against these soldiers. I love the fact that even though he can't use his sword, he's still incredibly destructive, just completely destroying the jaws and cracking the teeth of all of those knights with his big metal arm. You can actually see the soldiers flying around all over the place, and the moment that he gets hit with that arrow and decides to pull that sword out and just swing it right into that group of soldiers, man, was that just a symphony of gory badassery. I loved that scene. It was so classic Berserk. It's exactly what I've been wanting to see from the series. It was the first scene that I've actually seen from this brand new anime iteration that reminded me of the manga version. More of this, please. The biggest thing about this episode, of course, is that we are formally introduced to the character of Farnese, who is going to be a very important character in the series, who is going to have a lot of interesting development with Guts, especially considering where she comes from and the type of character that Guts is as well. I also like the fact that Serpico is also becoming a pretty important character in this episode, more so towards the end, and he doesn't have too much dialogue, but rest assured, he's certainly going to become a fan-favorite character, especially for those who have not read the manga version. All of these characters are really damn great. And I have to say, there are some strange choices they make in this episode, like when Farnese is captured, she's missing a shirt, she doesn't have a top, and her breasts are completely exposed, but she's got no nipples. She's kind of like a Barbie doll. I really love the dynamic between Guts and Farnese, especially because their personalities are so different and they're the perfect representations of both light and dark, and yet they really do work well with each other, and we're going to see more of that development as this season is going on. That being said, the rest of this episode was basically just a big action fest, which was a lot of fun. On the technical side of things, I think this was a better looking episode than the first episode of the series. There were more traditional anime moments in a sense that it looked more 2D as opposed to 3D. However, the 3D is still there, so if you didn't like it in the first episode, you're certainly not going to like it here, and it can be a little stiff and jarring at some points. That being said, I loved this episode. I loved it for the action. I also loved it for the music cues. We got the guy who did the music for the original Berserk anime series and for some of the pieces from the movies coming back to work on this series, and when his music kicks in at the very end of the episode, oh my god, was it awesome. Classic Berserk fans are absolutely going to love it. It adds so much atmosphere to this dark fantasy anime series. Like I said in my last review, I'm going to wait until I see one more episode before I start divvying out some scores. What I will say is this was a significantly better episode than the first episode of the series, much better paced, way more interesting characters, and the action was pretty damned awesome. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the rest of this season. Hopefully they'll find a nice stopping point, so if the series is popular enough, we can get more in the future, because as controversial as this Berserk anime series is, especially because of its animation and art style, I want to see more. I want to see more of the story unfold. I want to see other arcs brought to life. Despite the fact that we have skipped a number of key arcs from the series, still, I want to see more. So, I'm just hungry for more Berserk, and that's why I really loved this episode right here. It really satiated my need for a lot of kick-ass action and some really great, deep, thought-provoking characters. So check it out if you're looking for a new kick-ass action dark fantasy anime series. It's Berserk, and it's badass. So, if any of you guys did watch this week's episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. What do you think of the action in this episode? Are you a fan of the brand new characters of Farnese, Azon, or even Serpico? What do you want to see from the rest of the Berserk anime series? And did you not like this episode? Are you still just not satisfied with the 3D animation style? Are you going to continue to watch, or are you ditching the series? Please tell me in the comment section below. You guys are kick-ass! Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. If you would like to help support Super Kami Guru 9000, the most easiest way to do that is to subscribe to the channel, comment on our videos, and share them with all of your friends. You guys should also check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. It's pretty damn awesome. You can listen to it on our YouTube channel, or you can download it for free at iTunes and at RogueIntel.com. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!